Hello and welcome to the Kaizen Academy podcast. I'm Justin and I'm here with my co-host Cal. How you doing,
What's
Cal?
up? What's up? I'm doing good. Not bad, bro. Not bad,
Not
Yourself?
bad. Oh, pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah, as good as it can be, bro. I know you're doing well over there, bro.
Yeah, shit. What you been up to recently, Cal?
Oh man, like exams. Had exams for my grad program, like I was mentioning. I passed though, so big celebrations on my end. Um, man, you know what? Like because I still teach. Like I'm teaching on the weekends and stuff, and like I get to share some of this stuff with my students as well. So sometimes I'll come to
Mm,
class and I'll be like, oh, like I've had a long week, and my kids are always so nice. Right? They're like, sir, take a break, or they'll be like, oh, congratulations on your exam and stuff. And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
really a nice pick me up on the weekend,
Don't
which I
worry
really
about class,
appreciate.
sir. We'll just go home.
True. No, a lot of them are. I'm lucky to teach like so many bright students. So a lot of times it
Mm,
is. I don't really have to do that much heavy lifting,
mm,
and
mm.
it's nice. It's nice, like to kind of see them on the weekends. But yeah, just studying like a bunch, man. Holy, me and my
Yeah,
coworkers just like grinding it out nights like far out. Just been like some long nights and like weekends. We were like, all right, stuff. Let's burn through weekends. And we started like scheduling in study on the weekend and everything like that. We're just, it was rough, but we made it through. So it's so
jeez.
good.
So like, you're studying during the day, and
Oh,
then
dude. Yeah.
at night studying as well. Sometimes on the weekend. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
is it like you have a curriculum that you're working through? So this is for Cisco.
Yeah. So like that's the other thing. It's like the exam content, it runs parallel to what we learn in like maybe the main classes, the main enablements that the company is running for us as a part of the grad program.
Yeah,
So on one hand, we're learning about like say Cisco partners, how to deal with partners, how to deal with this, how to deal with that, like the many complexities of the company. And
yeah,
then on the other hand, at night, literally like moonlighting. In the
yeah.
day, learn about this. At night, moonlight, studying about freaking the for the certificate, and we've been going crazy. And like it was nice though. We finished and we had some nice like sessions on this Friday actually, just a few days ago, just like having some beers with like just de-stressing kind of. Yeah. So that was nice. That was nice. We made it through, but a few more to go. So
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
need to make sure I last. It's more sustainable. I don't burn out too early, kind of thing.
definitely. And I guess that kind of leads into our topic for today, which
Oh,
I'm calling the hustle grindset, because that's what you've been doing recently, Cal. But
yeah.
before jumping into that, if you guys have been watching our podcast for a while, make sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel, or you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But what is the hustle grindset? What do I mean by that?
I love that.
Yeah,
Wait. Can I just pause you for a second, Justin?
yeah.
Where did you find the word grind set from? Because that is an amazing. I love that word.
um, there's a Twitch streamer that I like watching. His name's Atrioc. Really
Oh,
cool guy because he only moonlights as a Twitch streamer. He's actually like he works at Nvidia as a
that's
marketer,
dope.
and he what I like about him is that he actually has like he works in the corporate world, right? So he has a different take than most other Twitch streamers who are just people who went straight from uni to like streaming full time. So he's got a bit more of an adult, I guess, or a more mature in some ways mindset.
Yeah,
Knows how like the corporate world works. Has like actually a lot of interesting takes on like marketing and stuff because that's his job.
yeah,
He's a marketer. And he likes to make fun of like the hustle grind set, all right, the
yeah.
grustle.
The grass. I've never. That's a new one. I haven't heard of that one. I'm on the internet. I'm on Twitter very often, but I have not heard
Yeah,
of the Grussel, bro.
yeah.
Very interesting.
But yeah, like even from the terms, I'm sure like the listeners know what we're talking about, right? It's the Gary V like work like I don't know 996 type.
Yeah.
The all the cliches that you get from the hustle culture that has
Where
kind
did
of
it come from? Like,
grown.
it's
Yeah.
crazy that it's. I mean, it was almost in itself a pandemic for a while, man. I think I that's how I saw it, man. I was just seeing too much of it, and there was so many
Yeah.
of these like motivational YouTube videos that would come out, or like a day in the life, a morning with me, and then they'll do morning with me videos. I
Yeah.
wake
Yeah.
up, meditate for an hour, pray for an hour, do this for an hour,
Day
right?
in
And
the
it's like,
life of an investment banker.
yeah, and
Or
it's
wake
like,
up in the morning.
full glamorizing like terrible habits. Like honestly, I think it's it's swinging too far to that side, right? When people say there's a balance in life and everything, I think there's so much truth in that. And yeah, it's a bit of a cliche, but like in this case, yeah, you can't be too productive, man. Like you can take things a
Chill out
little
a
too
little
seriously.
bit.
Yeah, chill out, man. Like what about your friends and family? What about your mental health? Have we talked about that for a second?
100% agree. There's a lot of toxic ideas from this area. But for this podcast, I wanted to bounce off you just a bunch of ideas I've picked out from them, because I do honestly feel like there are nuggets of useful information in there, right? I think a lot of times the original idea may have been like twisted. It's like a case of Chinese whispers. It's like goes from one person to the next, and through misinterpretation, you get this like horrific, I don't know,
Abomination
of a mindset.
Yeah.
Of a grind set, sorry. So
Yo,
today
fire.
we're going to run
That's
through certain ideas, see how they've how they've played out in our own lives, and see if they're actually useful. And hopefully the listeners can pull the useful ones and get rid of the shit ones.
Yeah.
So
No, I thought. Sorry, Justin.
Go.
I thought we were dunking on this. I thought when I read the podcast notes, I was like, "Oh, we just dunking on this," which I was like very happy to do. But I'm loving that you were taking a slightly more nuanced take on this. It's like, okay, look, I'm sure there's a reason why they're so popular. I'm sure there's like, I think that's the thing though. A lot of these toxic things that we find, toxic mindsets that you find out there that kind of gain traction. I feel like they gain traction because there is half truths built in. That kind of allow it to sustain, like kind of allow it to stand up as an idea. And then it kind of just snowballs into something absolutely disgusting. But okay, cool. So I thought we were just straight dunking, like, man, this is so dumb.
Oh, don't worry, there'll be plenty of dunking this episode.
On the Gary V types.
And to be honest, I actually quite like Gary V. I think he's one of the people I've seen that has kind of spurred this idea in my head, where initially I was very judgmental of like, who the fuck is this guy, right? He's like, just like, seems hyper energetic. He seems like the sketchy salesman type. But after actually listening to what he has to say, this guy actually like, he has some pretty good takes on like a lot of things. I quite like him as a person. Of course, there's some things that I just straight up disagree with. But I think it's important to kind of let ideas play out, give them a chance kind of thing. So the first one I wanted to bounce off you, Cal, is waking up at 4 a.m. You see in all those day in the life videos, you got to wake up before dawn. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I've had very minimal experience. I don't think I've had like long runs in my life where I'm like, I've been waking up at 4 like sustainably. I think I've done it once in a while. And I can't shake the feeling that it did feel good those times that I did do it, right? And so do I still in the back of my mind yearn for a time where I can go back to waking up at 4 and going to the gym? Yes. Like it was honestly very refreshing. I don't know how I'm going to come back to that level again. But I do remember there were times where, and I don't know how I got into it. I think I went for 2 weeks straight doing it. And it was amazing how I felt for a while, right? I couldn't kind of hold on to it, but I think it kind of started with a really long day, and I came home, and instead of like just doing anything, I just fell asleep at 8 and then woke up at 4, and I was like, so I've kind of fell into that habit, luckily, that routine, I guess. And I did it for a while, and I was like, wow, that was amazing. It was cool, but I don't know. It's for me.
Well, why do you think it was amazing and cool?
I don't know if it's my competitive edge. That's the thing, where it's like I love being competitive, and whether it's who can wake up first and get their day started, even that is in me. I'm like, I'm getting ahead of other people. And now that I'm kind of letting the ideas come out and hear it for myself, I don't think it's that good of an angle to take. I'm sure there is a better angle to stay motivated, an angle that doesn't require you to pitch yourself against other people. You know what I mean? Whereas I think when I did enjoy that time, it was mostly, what are you doing? Right? What are you doing? I'm up at 4.
While y'all sleeping, I'm at the gym hitting some weights.
You're sleeping. You sleeping, right? Like I'm like freaking grinding. I'm on that grind set. But like also nice, like the morning air was something that I didn't get a lot.
Okay.
Not waking up that early, and that was something that I got, and I was like, man, that was really nice as well. But generally speaking, it was just like, getting the day out of the way with like so early, and like that was nice. I really liked that. I definitely liked it, but it wasn't sustainable for me. I remember though, when I had this period, it was kind of mostly motivated because you were doing it for a little while, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had a pretty solid like 6 to 8 months where I was
No,
waking
that's
up at like
interesting.
four to five every morning.
Yeah. Now I
And
got to hear your take on that. So
uh,
what's that like? You went for it. It was good. I'm sure 6 to 8 months is a long time, but
it was a long time. Yeah,
what's a take on that?
I really like it, but there's a lot of nuance to it, I think. And I think fundamentally, like the what is good about it actually is not so much 4 a.m. is arbitrary. I think the core idea of this is to wake up maybe 2 or 3 hours before you need to, right? You have
Yeah.
3 hours to do stuff to kind of prepare yourself for the day, as opposed to you wake up and you got to be out the door. Like, I need to get to work straight away. I need to like quickly scarf down breakfast.
Yeah.
I think the powerful thing about this is giving like yourself just like 2 to 3 hours to kind of start to wake up. Like, you're not in a panic state. You can be really slow with things and just like do like a bunch of habits, right? To kind of just get yourself ready for the day. And when I'm able to do like these things, I have this like 2 or 3 hours to just do my morning routine. The day feels so much better. I feel like way calmer. I feel like I can handle things a lot easier. It's a lot harder for me to be distracted is a big one. I don't know what it is. I have to like think on it more, on why like I just feel more switched on. But I think that's the core idea, right? It's more that giving yourself 2 to 3 hours of time to get ready and get primed for the day. And 4 a.m. I think is more of a product of just, if you live far away from work and you need to leave from your station to get to work by 9 at 7, then yeah, you got to wake up at 4:35 to be able to squeeze that in.
Yeah.
But now that we're working from home, I don't do that anymore because I can just wake up. Like, my work is right like at my desk, right?
Yeah.
Like, I start at 9:30, then I just need to wake up at
7?
7:30. 7 is what I do now.
Yeah.
And I still have that huge bunch of time to just do a bit of journaling, do a bit of meditation, do my like my short exercise every morning, and it's so good. It really gets me feeling like I'm attacking the day rather than getting attacked by the day.
Dude, that's fire, man. Like, I think that there is a lot of it that lends into you yourself creating a space for mindfulness and for that like in the morning. I remember in that very short period of me doing it as well. Yeah, like going to the gym was not, oh god, I got 60 minutes, gotta crank it in. It was like deep breaths, just wash my face, brush my teeth slowly, kind of just walk around, really like enjoy the peace and quiet, and
Yes.
like not be pushed and like stressed on it, right? And yeah, it really did give me that space to kind of be slow, which I don't think a lot of us have the chance to if we're jumping straight into work. And
You
I
straight
like
up
that.
frantic. Like, it's if I have to like head to uni straight away or head to work straight away, as soon as I wake up, I just have a lot of anxiety, or like I feel
Yes,
frantic for the rest
me
of the
too.
day. Um, yeah, like you were saying, it's like that peace in the morning that I really enjoy.
Yeah, uh, like I guess like it also gives you that room to do things that you might not. Yeah, like it's kind of hard after a long day of work. Very hard to kind of
You're
come
already
home and
fried.
then
You're
you're
already
already fried.
fried.
Yeah, like what are we talking about? Like, are we are you gonna crank out a massive workout? Yeah, some can find that motivation, but is it a lot easier if you find a space or pocket in the morning? 100%, right? Or journaling, or just like taking some time meditating, whatever it is that you do in your spare time that is for kind of your mental health or is to kind of take care of yourself, right? I think that is a lot easier to squeeze in the mornings. That's definitely a hard pill to swallow for me because I still need to get back into it. Definitely been waking up a little late. Like right before my meeting is like 10 minutes. I'm like, oh god, I'm stressing out. And yeah, no, I think the other thing is me specifically. I think recently I figured out a lot of my stomach problems,
Mm.
my stomach problems that I might have mentioned here. Like I think they are definitely driven by stress. Like literally before my exam, I was sitting there the night before and just like cranking through like past paper questions and like really stressing out. And I could feel like on cue my stomach starting to hurt. And I think there are a lot of elements of my physical health that are actually tied to my stress levels.
Yeah.
Finding a pocket in the morning, if I could, to kind of like give myself the time and space to breathe and tackle the day and not get tackled by the day, like you said. I really like that. That's a 5. Put that one down, bro. But yeah, that space I'm sure can help manage my stress levels, and I'm sure it will pay dividends for me down the line specifically.
Then I guess it seems like we're kind of on the same page in that I think like waking up early is good, with the nuance that it's not an arbitrary time of
Yes.
4 a.m. It's more just giving yourself the time in the morning to kind of get ready for the day, to again tackle the day.
Yeah.
And if you're a uni student who doesn't need to be at uni until 11 a.m., then no, like waking up at 4 a.m. is probably not an amazing idea. Like you probably can get
Yeah.
away with waking up at 8 or 9 and then like doing your morning routine and then heading to uni, and then you're still at your first class at 11. I think it only ends up at 4 a.m. if you're someone who is working 9 to 5 and has a long commute. And I found that was unsustainable because at least at this point of my life, because if you're waking up 4 a.m., you have to sleep at like 8 or 9 p.m.,
Yeah.
right? And that's too early. I was doing that for a while, but that was when I had like no life, had no social life, right?
Yeah.
And it's not ideal. Because like while I'm still young, like I would constantly break my routines because like, okay, Saturday I'm staying up till like 12, like midnight, and then I've got to try to go back to sleeping at 8 p.m. Like on Monday, it's like impossible, right? I feel like this might be something you can do once you have a family and stuff. You no longer have those, like you're no longer constantly breaking your sleep schedule. To be able to go out and stuff, then maybe like that's when I would consider doing it again. But I think more of the principle behind it is just give yourself like some space in the mornings. It doesn't have to be 2 hours, even just like 1 hour, 1.5 hours maybe, or like whatever you can is good.
Dude, that's amazing. I love that. You did not put that in the notes, and I'm like, I'm blown away by it because I'm a big fan of that. Because yeah, it's probably, I think, the safest thing to kind of go with for now. I think for me as well, looking forward, I'm trying to build a nice sleep schedule. You know, my work is relatively flexible, so it's on me, my responsibility to kind of find that schedule and get myself ready. And I think combination of giving yourself time before your day starts, whenever it is, right? Whenever it is that your day starts. Not everyone freaking lives the 9 to 5. Not everyone lives the whatever it is, right? Not everyone needs a commute. So just giving yourself at least a couple hours or 2 hours, 3 hours to get yourself ready in the morning. Combination of that and making sure you actually get enough sleep. Because if you, I don't know what it is. Some people might have to be working multiple jobs out there. You know, it's rough. Life can be rough, and you might have commitments that go late into the night, and you might be in that part of your life where you're straight. You just have to grind for survival or something like that. And whatever it is that I think people have in their personal kind of commitments that might be conflicting with a 9 p.m. sleep time, bedtime kind of like schedule, right? So it's, hey, are you getting enough sleep? Are you giving yourself enough time in the morning to prepare yourself? And I think besides that, I think if you've got those two locked out, man, I'm gonna try to do that for the next few weeks, man.
And I think you brought up like super good point in that I feel like it's a case of like misinterpretation that could possibly happen here, right? Is that when you see someone say they wake up at 4 a.m., you think you might be misinterpreted as, oh, you're just getting less sleep because you're still going to sleep at 12, but then you wake up at 4. No, like if you're going to go with the tactic of trying to wake up early, it 100% means you need to shift your bedtime backwards, right? Like getting your full sleep is not like optional. It's you have to do it.
Yeah, it's the I saw a TikTok last night, and this girl, she like caught her boyfriend, instead of setting an alarm,
Yeah.
he sets an 8-hour timer. And like it was funny just like as an idea, like this guy's kind of funny, like doing
Yeah.
some weird stuff, right? But in
Yeah.
reality, I'm like, wait a second, this is kind of fire because he prioritizes more than anything that he gets the 8 hours. I don't really
Mm,
care, right? Obviously, as long as your commitments align, so I think it's much more important to get your 8 hours or whatever it is that your body is kind of adjusted to, right? And I think
mm,
this is where the Chinese whisperers kind of come in as well. The idea probably started as, hey, if you can wake up at 4 and sleep earlier, it might kind of give you a more of a positive outlook. And if you're in a bit of a rut and you can somehow latch yourself onto that habit, I'm sure it's gonna be positive. There is a positive effect there.
mm.
But then you got some guys out there probably shilling the idea, I sleep 4 hours, I sleep 5 hours, right? And it's like, no, that's not what we're going for here. No
Mm,
way, right? That is 100% the toxic side of everything.
mm.
That like no, like literally, like no one successful I've spoken to is like, yeah, sleep 4 hours, bro. Like
Sleep
it's
is
the
for
best
the
thing.
weak.
Yeah, like no realistic, no real person like that is successful. It has ever really told me that. I'm like, that's ridiculous, right? It's so stupid. So yeah, that's the part that we want to stay away from.
And I guess only you know how long is a full length of sleep to you, right? I've heard stories of people saying like, yeah, they straight up only need 5 hours of sleep. Like Jocko Willink, who's a big proponent of like waking up at 4 a.m.,
Yeah,
says, yeah, that's like how much he needs. And like, fair enough. If through like empirical evidence,
yeah.
that's how much you need, then good for you. You've got more waking hours. I'm curious, Cal, how long do you think your full sleep is? Like through just experience, I find 7.5 hours is the amount for me.
Yeah. I've been, oh man, I don't know. I think I'm roughly around there as well, maybe 8.
Yeah,
Because I think I've gone for 7 for a long time and then still felt a bit tired.
yeah,
I'm still relying a bit on coffee. I'm not like, oh, amazing. So I think maybe if I bump it up to 8, it might be a bit better. But yeah, there's also, yeah, that's a good point, Justin. I shouldn't just like rag on anyone who can sleep on 6 hours. That's amazing. That's awesome. And there are studies out there that, we just all have different kind of uh, acceptable ranges where we can sleep within. And some people, there is a small population out there, but just keep in mind, it is a small population who can thrive, like genuinely thrive on a lesser amount. But there is an average for a reason, and the empirical average is 7, 8. Right? Make sure that you kind of estimating for yourself, and you obviously find it out for yourself as well.
100%. Okay. Next Grustle tip we're going to talk about is cold showers, Cal. I'll go first
Dude,
for this one.
yeah,
I did it for a while. I felt I feel like it was a nice placebo in that, um, okay, so I'm not saying the whole thing is a placebo. I'm saying this
yeah,
first part is probably a placebo in that it's in the same vein as you were talking about before. It's like, ooh, cold shower. I feel like I'm so tough. I feel like I'm so whatever. And I feel like genuinely like that. Like I used to do this in my morning routine. I don't do it anymore because I've become weak. But I can't deal with it anymore.
shameful.
Yeah, shameful. But yeah, it really helped with like consolidating that. I guess like that energy, that vibe for me. It's like, damn, I can like I'm able to control my actions, even though this is very uncomfortable. I I've just proven to myself that I can act despite discomfort, and it was kind of a nice little like booster, like in terms of my mindset for the day. But apart from that, it's a nice little refresh. It kind of wakes you up in the morning, like if I'm kind of sleep deprived. Cold showers are helpful, but I've weaned myself off of it because it's very uncomfortable, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like I'm not motivated enough to do it because I don't see like that big of a benefit,
Yeah.
or if I'm just weak. What's your take?
No, like I kind of like it.
Yeah,
As in, it's not a terrible practice. I don't think anyone out there is dying because of it, or anyone out there is losing out. You know what I mean? It's not all people are like destroying their mental health because of it.
mm,
Um, I have a couple other personal reasons why it might be helpful for me. I don't actually stick to it as well. Like sometimes it's really rough, and after a long day of work, you do need a hot shower. Something about a hot shower that just relaxes everything.
mm,
That
mm.
relaxing element is really important sometimes. Like sometimes I just do not have the gung ho. Give me the freaking 0 degrees right now, and I'm totally on board with what you said. Like I definitely have the same where it's like in the winter, I was trying to do it for a while, and once in a while do it as often as I could, and it was very much a test of my how strong am I? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was like just slam it into the cold water and then just see if I can not hold my breath, but like breathe and not panic and not just like really test myself in that moment. Cool, awesome, and it makes my skin really tight as well, so it makes me feel a bit more shredded than usual, and that's kind of nice. And but I don't know if it's a balance between, hey, this is an exercise to test your mental strength or test a bit of like self-control kind of thing, or am I wasting my energy, you know what I mean, having to fight that in that moment, like am I kind of expending my energy there? Like I haven't maybe committed to it long term enough for it to be in the background. I know some people who just do it and they're just like, yeah, that's what I do now. And it's like, oh yeah, maybe I can come around to it. But I also have really terrible eczema, so hot showers are really bad for my skin.
Okay.
And so sometimes it's more of a guilty pleasure to have a hot shower, and it's a lot more. It also kind of makes me feel better if I take a cold shower. I'm like, okay, I'm doing good for my skin, and there is a bit more reason for me to personally do it. But yeah, I do enjoy it once in a while, and but I don't have the science to be like, yeah, this is gonna freaking change your life, and you have to do this or anything like that. Man, do it if you want. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that I'm like, do it if you want. Don't do it. I'm sure your life is perfectly fine without it.
I think that's a good take. Yeah, I think yeah, I've got nothing else to add to that. It's probably a good thing. Like there's no negative to it. I think it's like a very good way to test like your mental strength, I guess, because it is quite hard. Like if you've never tried it before, it's probably worth trying and seeing that. Yeah, as soon as you switch over to like the cold, you kind of have like a bit of a intense like freezing like reaction. Like
the flight or fight kind of kicks in a little bit now.
Yeah. And I guess that's a good way to like desensitize yourself to that.
Yeah.
But I don't do it. I don't practice it.
Yeah, no, like there's an element of like stoicism. I don't know how to pronounce that, to be honest right now. Sorry, but you know what I mean. Like there's an element of not letting that kind of run there's like a meditative almost process to it, right? It's like, hey, can I be mindful of how cold it feels right now and not panic out of it? Like, can I actually just, you know what I mean? And in moments, I try to practice that when I'm having my cold showers. But there are some days where I'm like, I cannot, in the life of me, find the energy to switch it over and like get absolutely smashed in the face with cold water.
Yeah,
because it is so cold right now. Especially on colder days. I think in the summer it's a lot easier though. In the summer, because
it's pretty
like,
refreshing. Yeah,
it's refreshing. Yeah. But yeah, cold showers in the winter, it's a little wild, you know.
Okay, so I guess our take on this is probably a good thing. Not gonna be not a huge loss if you don't do it. We don't think, but if you do it, no, good on you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, next one is you got to get yourself a mentor, Cal. And what I mean by this is not in the sense of like any other teacher, right? Just like someone who teaches you. It's a term sometimes I hear used in maybe more old school like business circles.
Yep.
And it's like basically finding someone further along in their career in what you want to do, and you assign them the role of like your mentor, right? So that they'll actually you'll call them that, like, oh, so and so is my mentor. They're basically your shifu. You go to you go to them for like any advice that you need. I don't know if you've heard the term used this way before.
Funnily enough, yeah, like this week I had a couple meetings with like some higher executives at Cisco as well, just to kind of chat. Yep. And yeah, one of the persons that I've talked to, he was definitely later down in his line, and he was giving us advice, because these kind of meetings that we're having as fresh grads, and we're kind of reaching out to VP, we're reaching out to operations manager for all of Australia, and kind of just, hey, what do you do? And kind of finding out what they do for their job, and if they have any advice for us as grads, and just chit chat. And his advice was, he was very adamant and very like passionate about get yourself a mentor. Like, and I see value in it. He was like, yeah, I'm going to have a meeting with my mentee right after this. And I think there is so much that you can learn, and there is so much of like a a two-way streak as well. He was saying like even though he's the mentor, he's learned so much from the relationship. She brings so much into the relationship to kind of like teach him, and vice versa. And I think like there has to be a reason why. I mean, my grad program is literally designed so that the people in the year above will be your buddy, and later on I will be a buddy for someone else if I stay and I make it through the program and I kind of find myself in a permanent position, right? And there is so much emphasis in, even back when I was at Salesforce, the same kind of really like they put in a lot of effort to, you know, outline mentor, mentee. Here, this is your mentor. This is at Salesforce. I think I have like 2 mentors assigned to me, like just 2 different ones, just as much as possible. And I think 100%, it's just like when you get into the world of work, like there is so much that you don't know, so much that you're fed, and you're like, okay, that's how I see it. And then you hear someone else who's actually gone through it, and it's completely different, right? I've talked to some people where it's like, yeah, like this is what you're gonna do next few years, and then some other people are like, no, this is what you can also do in the next few years, right? And like whether it comes to like looking for or kind of outlining my career path, that's been difficult. Cisco is such a large company, and the world is such a big place where I can literally go anywhere and everywhere. And if you don't have someone who's gone through those few years to give you more of that honest take, candid take, you know what I mean? More of like unadulterated, unfiltered, that kind of take, like, yeah, this is the lowdown. This is how it's gonna work, right? This is what you're gonna get paid. This is like the freaking this, that. I found that's like so instrumental in my journey, and I don't know how I would ever like go without it. Like it just feels like you're doing it blind if you don't, right? So I'm a big proponent for having a mentor. I'm actually a big fan of this one.
Yeah.
What about you, Justin?
And I guess that's a big point, eh? The point about like when you have a relationship with someone who's your mentor, you can get very like, well, what's the word? Like a more casual take on things. It's not as like, oh, this is business with like your boss. It's like you feel like you can get their more honest takes on things.
Yeah. There's less politics. It's disconnected from like the manager relationship. Like my manager is, I'll go on the record, she's very nice. But at the end of the day, she's my manager, and I don't want to be like a total idiot. Like I'm very, she's made it so that I feel very safe around her, definitely, to be open and to kind of share with her my struggles and everything like that, as any good manager would.
Yeah.
But there is still that layer, and it's not on her. It's just like that
It's
professional relationship, you know? And when I talk to someone else who's, say, 2 years deep into what I'm doing, and they just kind of giving me that feedback, it's so much, the guards are down, you know what I mean? There's the politics are removed. There's very little like stake in that relationship, so they can really be as honest as any, right? So I find that so helpful.
Interesting. I've actually got the opposite view, Cal.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear this.
I actually strongly dislike the idea of like having a mentor, right? A sifu.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's probably just like pedantics, like me being like overthinking things, but I kind of dislike the title of like this person is my mentor, because I feel like you're putting a lot of undue responsibility or like trust in just someone like for no reason. It kind of feels like to me when you assign someone as your mentor, you placed a lot of trust in them in a way that's not diversified enough, right? Because you're your own person, I feel like, and your life will develop in its own way. And when you say this person is my mentor and I'm gonna shape my career in the way like that's following in their footsteps, I don't know, that doesn't sit right with me. And I'm sure this is like a lot of people don't look at it like that, right? I'm sure a lot of people just think of their mentor as someone they come to when they need
advice.
help, or
like
they need help when they need advice, kind of thing. Someone who's just in your corner. But I feel like a lot of times the way the term mentor is used is very much in as an idol, right?
Yeah.
And I strongly dislike that. the way that I like to think about things is, yeah, I have like mentors in my life, people who have taught me things, but not this person is my mentor. I've had a lot of teachers in my life, whether they were previous bosses or just a friend, right? And I think it's good to have a lot of teachers in your life, and even people who you haven't met, like heroes, I think is a good one, because you pick and choose the things that you like about them. Like, this person has good takes on this area, and I'll listen to their advice on this area, or for my career. Or maybe this person is really good with people, and then I'm going to listen to their advice with interacting with people. And I feel like I much prefer looking at it in terms of picking and choosing qualities, I guess, or ideas from a wide range of people, as opposed to thinking about it in terms of, I have this mentor and the majority of the way I think is going to be coming from them, as opposed to you being the one to being the one to look around and kind of think for yourself of, do I agree with this or do I not? So that's kind of my take on it, Cal.
Dude, I think that's 100% valid. Like, and yeah, it's a matter of, oh, I mean this, you mean that. Like, my interpretation of mentor was very much, hey, find someone that you have in your corner, find someone that is, that's kind of paved the way a little bit, can kind of warn you. And it's what we do, right? What we've done. And kind of the big motivation in this podcast literally was just, hey, we've kind of fucked up with many things. But I'd like you to have these warnings as well, right?
Learn
and
from
as
our
a teacher,
mistakes.
yeah, and it's more so of a teacher relationship. Well, I teach, like, I love teaching, and it's like, hey, this is how I learned physics. Don't make the same mistakes as I did. And I think that's really it. And in the corporate world, there's a big emphasis on it, because I think if they don't do it, a lot of people might default and just not even reach out, right? And they won't put in the effort to find those sources of truth, that kind of advice that you might need to flourish and thrive in those environments. Just because, what is it like? How would you know what being a systems engineer at Cisco is going to be like? Literally wouldn't know. Even if you had a very similar role at another place, like, it's so different. You know what I mean? Like, the world is just so vast, and it's so, like, mysterious. Like, there's always so much hush, like, how much do you get paid for this role? Ooh, what are kind of the responsibilities in this role, right? And it's hard to figure that out on your own. It's hard to kind of get that from upper management. They might not be as upfront about it because they're scared of losing talent. They're scared of scaring you away or something like that. There are just all of these politics, right? And I think if you have someone in your corner, someone that you can share more candid conversations with, that would be like, cool. But when it comes to, hey, this is my idol, he did this, let me take that step. He took that step, let me take that step. Yeah, that sounds I don't think that sounds very good. Everyone is like their own person. I think everyone needs to find their own path. And for me, I'm a big fan of it just because of the utility of it, or kind of the effectiveness of the advice that I've found through those relationships have been awesome. But it's always advice. It's nothing more. It's no more like, okay, you have to do that, and then you have to do this. It's just like, oh, that's some really cool advice. I'll definitely think on that, and I'll discuss it with friends, and I'll listen to someone else and see what everyone else thinks, right? But yeah, it's always, I mean, that's a what is it, like a freaking, it's always a good principle to have, right? Diversifying. When is it good in any part of your life to be like all in on one thing?
Or your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, no way, right? No way. Whether it's your crypto or your freaking whatever, like, no way. Like, you gotta chill out, and you gotta make sure that you hear from a lot of people and get a lot of perspectives on things, and make a judgment for yourself.
I think that's awesome. Yeah. So I guess the summary for this part is, in the sense of the way you've used it, Cal, a mentor is excellent. Someone in your corner who's more experienced, who's in your field, who just knows more, that can help you like get through like tough situations that you're just unprepared for. And the only thing that I've added is that look at it as just that, right? So don't idolize that person. Don't look to them for advice that's undue, I guess. Like, just because they're an amazing accountant doesn't mean they're a great father, right? So don't idolize people for those kinds of things. But I feel like that's more of just a disclaimer that I've placed on top of your advice of get a mentor, It's really good.
Man, I've come to learn, just don't idolize anyone. Like, idolizing people can just be so unhealthy. I mean, I love K-pop, so I idolize a lot of K-pop idols. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this is
Yeah.
an unhealthy parasocial relationship. Or like, yeah, in general, because it's like it's always, it's weird. It's just, it's not healthy. I don't think it's healthy, and I'm sure if you do the research on this, it has to be something unhealthy about being so obsessed with the person where you mimic them, or you kind of, yeah, just head over heels kind of thing, right? And I think, yeah, just not being. I don't want to make everyone a cynic, or I hope people aren't just like cynics in general, and like, but like, you know, even when I teach physics, it's like I always love to preface, or kind of like, yeah, preface with all my lessons on all the things I say. Like, what I say might not be gospel. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I've done this for 6, 7 years, and a lot of it might be true because I've just tried and tested it. But like, there are still things that I might not have figured out, and like caveats here and there. So if you hear an alternative, say, take on a certain topic, or you hear something different from what I might have taught, you don't need to like immediately dismiss that or dismiss me, right? It's always like, hey, hear it out, and kind of just don't take one kind of source, right? And I mean, that's what people, I mean, that's what your teachers teach you in high school. Like, when you reference things, like when you write your essay, right? You're not freaking writing it one
Cross check.
from what.
Cross check.
Yeah, cross check, man. Freaking, hey, another valuable lesson from school that they teach you. Hey,
Hey,
it's like,
hey. School's pretty
school's
good.
working. There's something to be said there. Yeah.
We'll have a whole episode on it.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is get off Facebook. Social media is a disease. And I guess I'll start off with this one in
Go
that
for it.
is the way I've worded it is very um, I don't know, very, very aggressive, I guess. But I actually do feel like social media is very dangerous. And it's something I've arrived at empirically. I feel like, of course, if you use it in the correct way, right? Like, it's insanely useful. There's like so many benefits to social media, but from just my own experience, you really have to control it. Otherwise, it's very hard to use it in just the ways that it's good for you, right? Because it's too easy to just get dragged down the rabbit hole and get exposed to like just I don't know what's that word, when like the news is always just super depressing, or like
nihilism. You become a bit nihilistic, or is it, or no?
um
What
not
kind of
quite.
news are we looking at? Like,
So news that just aims to evoke like anger or
like very reactionary kind of content.
yeah, like that kind of stuff. I feel
Mm.
like that's a major thing that social media does. Like, causing you to be constantly distracted is another one. Those are the two big ones that I think are major negatives. And I don't think necessarily you have to get off Facebook and all of the social medias, because I use them all the time. But I think it's very important to think through clearly why you're using each one, and if it has a place in your life, and recognizing that you don't have the power to control it through just pure willpower. I like always pay for like a bunch of apps that block my distractions, like only allow me to use this for 15 minutes a day or whatever, and just give me the tools to be able to fight against the impulses of wanting to constantly be on social media. And I guess like a big person that talks about this topic is Cal Newport. I really like his books. If you have time, read Digital Minimalism. But I think that's my take on it. It's most people should put more effort into controlling their social media use, but it's not purely evil.
Yeah. I'm curious. Like, do you have any examples of like more that reactionary content that you might have come across that's really designed just to evoke? Are you talking about like just like headlines, or more like hot takes to kind of clickbaity kind of hot takes, or?
Um, I think a big one is just headlines, right? You're only gonna it gives you a false representation of the world, because it'll buy like all of this stuff that pops up on your timeline will bias itself to things that are interesting, right? So you'll constantly see like murders, or like I don't know, like horrific things happening in the world, like we're all going to die because of global warming. Possibly true, like probably true. I don't know.
Yeah. Don't want to be climate change deniers on here.
Yeah, I don't want to be climate change denier, but like you constantly see examples of police brutality, like,
Yeah.
and it makes you subconsciously feel like this is what the entire world is like. It's just
Bleak.
it's very bleak. It's like maybe like 40% of the world of what you see is like these really bad events happening, but maybe they only represent like 1% of what is actually occurring in the world, and it just gives you a false representation, a false model of what the world actually looks like, a very biased model of what the world looks like.
Yeah.
Is an example of what I mean.
Yeah, dude. Oh man, I could. This is something I'm really interested on. Like something I've just recently found out as well, and I think because very recently I've been kind of sucked into that side of things. Oh, police brutality, kind of reading up, understanding systemic racism and stuff like that, understanding all these issues with the world, which tends to, I think, a lot of people kind of it tends to push people into a certain version of nihilism, a certain version of so this what is the point of even trying to do good in this world when the systems are kind of the systems of oppression kind of just work against you, right? And I think for anyone who's in a similar position, I found something very like a really interesting concept recently on TikTok. Man, I love TikTok sometimes. TikTok is absolutely terrible, but you find so many awesome creators on there, and it's because it's kind of like the place to be, and everyone's kind of creating on there. You do find some really interesting kind of content, but like there's this idea of like optimistic revolutionaries. So like a lot of times when it comes to like people who are a bit more, oh, the system's broken, we need to fix the system. You tend to think those people hate the world. They just want to fix it. They want to tear it down. But there is but that kind of mentality is really tiring, and I felt that as well. Like after of like reading up on so much of so many of these issues, kind of trying to understand, you know, why is homelessness such an issue here? Why can't we have a better social safety net? And where's the money going? And control of the media. You know, me and Justin, we've had long chats about this, like all the issues in Australia, right, or like all over the world as well. But I think when you feel slighted, or if anyone out there is kind of going through the same phase, if you feel slighted or you feel kind of really sad or nihilistic about those ideas, there is a really interesting or a really optimistic take on it. And it's that you feel sad because your deep down, your morals are rooted in the betterment of like society, and you are looking out for other people, and it comes from a really good place. And so while it can be sad to see that these things are occurring out there, the fact that you care, the fact that you are saddened by these things is actually a good thing. And so you can actually have a really good take on it. You can have a really nice positive spin on that kind of mentality and keep yourself away from that nihilism, away from that what's the point of doing anything? The world's freaking messed up. And I found that concept alone to be really like healthy for myself to kind of digest this content, the content that you were just mentioning, like this content that generally makes you feel really sad and bleak and things like that. It's like, hey, if you do feel, or if this makes you feel uncomfortable sometimes, understand that it's rooted in really positive, really wholesome morals that you've developed, and like you're really just looking out for other people, and it's a beautiful thing that you have, right? And I just love that kind of idea. It's helped me kind of digest so much of that terrible news that you get to see on Twitter, you get to see all the time on social media. That's been really awesome for me.
Yeah, and I guess that's a very good perspective on dealing with like the emotions when you run into these things. And I guess I wanted to get your take on this, Cal, in that, because I think what I finally settled on for myself is complete abstinence from these types of media. But that's not necessarily like the correct answer, because because these things are happening in the world, and it's probably good to know that these things are happening. So I guess what's your take on approaching social media in this sense? Do you think it's something that you should still be doing, but you just need to reframe things so that you can better place it in your mind? Or are there other things that you do to stop yourself from getting overwhelmed by the nihilism, I guess, of
Yeah, dude, it's rough. Like, I mean, we've gone through a couple years. I feel like in very very recent years, it has been the spotlight. Social justice has been a very hot topic, and a lot of people are being educated about it very like widely. And myself being sucked into it, I was like, you know what? If I have the space and time, I think this is something that I should involve myself in, I guess, right? And I do think maybe abstinence might be swinging the other way a bit too hard, because I think it's definitely healthy to know what is out there. It's healthy to understand the climate of everything. It's healthy to kind of just it helps with my empathy for other people, right? It helps with my ability to go, okay, these when I see people out there that I'd like to help, they need that help, or certain people are in certain positions not because they chose to, right? I think I was a bit more ruthless when I was a lot younger, and looking at some of the kind of social issues out there as their problem, and then kind of learning that, you know, when put into those positions, it's very hard to work out of those problems, and it's not just a oh pick yourself up by your boots and kind of like just get over it, right? Forehead, just freaking find a job. Forehead, like what, you know, there are many issues that they kind of face, and I think that in itself has grown my ability to empathize for the people around, just like seeing all the issues out there. I've definitely become more of an empathetic person, and it's been a lot more like I haven't become Mother Teresa, you know what I mean? But like I've been more like willing to hear out, oh, what's the issue here, right? Instead of
yeah,
just like hearing issues and being just blaming, loving to blame people. Oh, that's your fault. That's your fault. I'm in an amazing position. Like, I'm here. What's your excuse, right?
yeah,
And I think that's definitely made me a kinder person as well, a much more mature person when I start to look at different things. Like, a lot of things I see in the world through my lens now is a lot more mature, I find, than
yeah,
if I compare it to a few years back.
yeah,
And so that's really something that I enjoy, or I've enjoyed out of learning about these issues.
yeah,
Has it gone too far at points? Yes. It has definitely gone too far where I'm like, it's consumed so much of my time, it's going into my I guess the like my own life. Like I couldn't even focus on what I was supposed to be doing or something like that, right? Where maybe I was so involved in a certain social movement where I'm like, oh, blah blah blah, and I was just checking it daily, and I was like, what's going on here? What's going on there? And like, I'm like, wait a second, I'm spending so much of my time there. Are you focusing on uni? Are you doing your homework? It's like, and I'm like, oh man, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Can I actually get my life together first and then do more, right? So I think make sure that you don't go that far, because I've definitely fallen down the rabbit hole and gotten so far where it's consumed me. It's become like all I think about. It's taken up so much of my mind share, and I couldn't really focus on the things that I do. I've been radicalized a bit too much maybe. So I think I've kind of come back from that a little bit, and having the optimistic revolutionist kind of mindset has really helped as well. It's just, hey, you are upset by these things. Like, this is something I'm telling myself, like, sometimes, just so that I don't get too, man, this world sucks. I hate everything.
yeah,
All white people suck, or something like that. It's some ridiculous radical ideas that you see on the internet, right? It's like,
yeah,
hey, these, like, I'm uncomfortable by this, because I'm really just worried for other people, or my heart goes out for other people, and it's really just a wholesome thing that I have deep inside, right? It's rooted in positivity, and there
yeah,
is nothing to be ashamed about. There is nothing to be sad about, right? And hopefully, with more time in my day, or more time in my life, I've certainly now definitely I'm thinking about how can I give back, right? And I don't think that would have been a thing if I just went abstinent. That's the problem. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, I definitely have that in the forefront of my mind. Hey, when I start to get into the rhythm of my job, can I find time to actually go out and do proper charity work, right? Can I actually give back to society, whether it's through, I don't know, whatever programs there may be? Like, that is now slowly rising, like, in my mind as a priority for myself in the future. I would like that for like I'd like that to be something that I can do and participate in. And even like what we were talking about before this, as I start to find myself more stable financial uh, standings, I guess, like I'm thinking of, can I be more sustainable? Can I consume more ethically? Right? Can I avoid fast fashion? Can I do this and do that? I don't think I would have cared about any of those things if I wasn't kind of in the know or kind of have my toe dipped in these ideas or dipped in these like issues, right? What do you think, Justin? Sorry, there's a bit of a rant.
No, all good. And I think it's a very fair point in that that's definitely like a big advantage of being like connected to these like news, like these social media platforms, right? You're very up to date with the topics that are being talked about. You're exposed to things that you normally wouldn't be, because if you're just the one that's searching for things manually, you're only going to be finding out about things that you already know about, because you can't search for things that you don't know.
Yeah.
And I guess social media is a good way to introduce new ideas. So it's definitely something to think about. And I think just through this discussion, social media is an intensely complicated topic, because I think there are a lot of evils to it. But I think it's insanely powerful as well. I don't think it's something that we as a society should throw away.
No way.
But
Right.
it requires a lot more nuance than we currently have the tools to
And
deal
I'm
with
be
it.
real. What you said there, that's fine, man. Like, I'm not even kidding. Just hyping you up for the sake of hyping you up. But like, I don't want to be that Gary V guy that exaggerates everything. Where it's like, but I saw like this interesting take on it, and it was just like, hey, social media is like this brand new technology that we're living with now, right? And this brand new facet of humanity. Not to be dramatic, but it is, right? It's a facet of our humanity now, and like, just like how cigarettes were kind of like, oh, this is cool. Like everyone should smoke some cigarettes. And then like 60 years later, oh guys, this is really bad. In the same way, or in a similar way, okay? I'm not gonna say it's like freaking smoking cigarettes, but in a similar fashion, it's like we don't know what the long-term effects of social media, what that can be. And exposing social media to people as young as they are being exposed to it right now, we don't know the long-term effects of that. We'll definitely see. We are 100% the experiment right now. In about 60 years or whatever that time frame is, we'll see, right? And so knowing that we're venturing into like uncharted territory right now with social media, 100%. I think we definitely do not treat it with the same kind of precedence, respect that it might require, right? That we might give it in 60 years' time when the studies actually come out, when the long-term studies come out. Hey, this is really bad for you, or this kind of consumption is really bad for you. This has made you really depressed, or that's made you feel terrible, right? And so I'm totally on that train as well. It's like, and that's why for me, I don't know, I mentioned this last time, like my social medias are not necessarily explicitly locked like yours, Justin, but they're implicitly locked, right? I don't have the apps on my phone. I use the browser on my phone to get to the web page.
Add some friction to it.
And that has been enough for me. That has been enough for me, where it's like my screen time is down, but I still get to kind of check in on my messages. Friends send me some Instagram posts, I can reply, and like I'm still connected here and there, and I still expose myself once in a while. And my TikTok's dangerous. I don't have that on my phone. TikTok's so dangerous, it deserves its own phone. It deserves its own phone that I leave at home. I do not take it with me. It stays in my room. So if I go to Kelly's, I don't have it, right? And maybe like once a week, literally once a week, that's how often I get on TikTok and like kind of catch up on the replies and just scroll through the For You page a little bit. And even just that exposure, I'm like, whoa, that was addictive. I could not sleep just then.
Yeah.
That was so powerful. Like I just wanted to do that all day. And that was scary and it's dangerous. And I think there's definitely no need to go cold turkey on it. But do you be honest with yourself? Do you recognize the dangers of it? Because I think a lot of us don't. A lot of us are just like, oh, y'all too dramatic. Like y'all boomers. Like, oh, you just kind of like
you're scared of what's new.
Exactly. But I think there should be some respect to be put onto like how you treat it. There's a nuance to it. But even then, like the other side of the coin is what? It's the fact that just scrolling through TikTok, I've exposed myself to so many different ideas, which I do take with a grain of salt. I'll be real. Sometimes like I catch myself kind of believing everything I see, but I always, take it with a grain of salt. And it does expose me to ideas that I'm not necessarily looking for. And that can be healthy in itself, where you don't find yourself in an echo chamber of just reading things that you want to read and reading things that you like, right? Because it makes you feel good. And sometimes I see things like, oh, this makes me feel uncomfortable, but let me see if there's any truth in this, or and it challenges my worldviews. And I think that's important as a part of growing up. You need your worldviews challenged. You need to make sure that you actually have kind of those ideas sorted out, right?
And I guess just on that, then, like, unfortunately, we can't give the listeners like a nice summary of this is what you need to do to
Yeah.
deal with social media, right? Because it's
We're
an
not the experts,
intensely
unfortunately.
complicated, like, new aspect of humanity, and it's complicated. We don't have a good answer. All right, next one.
Just be careful with it. Just
Just be
careful, like
careful.
caution, right? Just big caution.
Okay, next one is the classic, Tai Lopez. You know
Oh,
what I like more than Lamborghinis?
I love this.
Knowledge.
I
What
actually
do
love
you
this.
reckon, Cal?
I love this, man. Like, I almost loved this man unironically for a while. I was like, this guy is so funny, man. This guy might be the funniest guy on the internet right now. Like, unintentionally, intentionally, I don't know. I don't know if he's putting up an act or if he knows what he's doing. It's bloody hilarious, man.
Yeah.
These 3 bookshelves and all these books and like, oh, far out. Love it. And it's funny because I've also seen this sentiment floating around where it's like, where it's like, would you rather $1 million or a 30-minute conversation with Jay-Z? And then people are like, I'd rather talk to Jay-Z. His advice is more valuable than ever. And it's like, oh, shut the hell up, please, man. Like, people out here struggling. Like, people do not have time to talk to Jay-Z, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's so dumb and like, it's so. I don't want to say virtue signaling, but it's just so silly. I think it's so silly to some degree. It's like, it's definitely one of those like abominations that kind of grew out of. I think there's maybe some truth in it. Yes, knowledge is very powerful, and I think, man, if you even look at it on like a country level, right, or developed countries value education as one of the most important elements in growing GDP or growing like economy and things like that. It's so important having a well-educated population. Education is at the core of everything we do, right? And we've everything that we always talk about, it's always learning, and it really is important. But when you're a meme like this, it's kind of dumb. It's like, am I gonna learn? Do I want to take Jay-Z's advice or do I want to have my next meal? Exactly. So shut the hell up. I'd like to eat, please. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. You know what I mean? But obviously, that's just like kind of playing into the meme a little bit. In reality, 100%, knowledge is so important, right? It's in everything that we've done, upskilling, right? It has been so crucial to getting further in life and making sure that you hit your higher educations and things like that, and you're educating yourself well enough. It's been so important. And you know what? Like, oh man, I don't mean to make this so political, but like even like when I see like the current movement of like, oh, anti-jab. I don't want to say it too much. Do you get like demonetized or whatever it is for saying like, you know what I mean? Like people who are like
Oh, right,
protesting
yeah.
the freedoms and stuff like that. It's like, I have a lot of sympathy for them and empathy, right? Where it's, they were kind of these individuals who might have been sold this, oh, you don't need to finish your education, just drop out and go follow a tradie life. And you can just start making money immediately. Yeah, awesome. They did make a lot of money like that. And a lot of tradies make heaps of money. They can take care of themselves. But when it comes to slightly more complicated matters in life, it's a lot harder, or it's a lot easier to kind of fall into these traps and fall into misinformation. I think personally, if you're not as educated, this might be a bit of a hot take. And I really don't look down on anyone at all. It's just like really, I find it like through my experience and who I've seen, it's a lot easier to fight things like misinformation and make better choices if you have something somewhat of a solid kind of education right behind you. And so in that sense, man, knowledge is invaluable. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it, man. It's I'd love to be Tai Lopez and be like, knowledge is the most important thing ever. But the world also runs on money, and you need to feed yourself, and you need to take care of yourself, right? So, um, yeah, like priorities, man. Get your priorities right.
For sure. And again, like all of the ones we've talked about so far, you need nuance to break these things down. But I'm gonna go with a little bit of a hot take in that
Go for it.
Tai Lopez is right, bro. The core message of this is 100% correct in my opinion.
Yes.
It's like, but the delivery is very poor in that, I guess, kind of what a subtext of it is that if you think like if you value money more than knowledge, I'm better than you. Is I think one of is the reason why people find it kind of insufferable, right? Because there's kind of some implicit judgment that's in the message. But I guess what he's saying is, I guess like if you break down the core of his message, it's that knowledge is extremely valuable, like, and far more valuable than a lot of materialistic wealth. I think it's like, it's quite correct. And like kind of like what you were saying though is, no, it's not an absolute thing either, right? Nothing in the world is an absolute thing. It's a trade-off in that maybe one unit of knowledge is worth $500, right? There's eventually going to be a point where it crosses over. And if you have a deal where you get a lot of monetary value, that is potentially worth more than the knowledge you get in certain area. And it's very hard to quantify these things, right? 'Cause there's no such thing as a unit of knowledge. But I guess in terms of helping people drive decisions, I tend to like the heuristic of, generally, if it's not like if it's not absolutely clear deal of you get $1 million or some knowledge, some like whatever knowledge, and it's very clear to you that you should take the $1 million because you need to feed your family and pay rent, then like obviously take that. But if it's kind of unclear, I feel like a good heuristic is to go in the direction where you learn more, where you gain more knowledge than gain materialistic things, right? So as an example, if you have the chance to, between two jobs, one pays less, but you learn a lot more, whereas the other one, you won't learn much, but you get paid more, then I would generally say go for the one where you learn more. But there's going to be situations where it's completely ridiculous, where you're getting paid a fifth of the salary. Then no, don't go with that job. So it's a scale, and I feel like generally it's just a heuristic to use. It's not an absolute thing.
Yeah, I think it becomes a problem. It is a fantastic idea, but it becomes a problem, I think, when you weaponize it against other people and you make it a judgment. I am better than you because I'm now looking for knowledge. No, you might have had the privilege to take that, right? You might not have been pushed into a corner where you're so desperate and you need the money instead of the knowledge. Awesome. I'm really happy that you have that in your life, but not everyone, like money. That's the thing. It's like if I have a decision between $1 million and a 30-minute conversation with Jay-Z, if I'm a millionaire, I might take that 30-minute conversation, right? But not everyone's a millionaire. It's different values to different people. And you cannot, that's the problem that I have with that kind of statement, is that if I see people using it against other people to then look down, I absolutely despise that. That makes me, like, my blood boils so much, where it's like you have zero empathy behind what you're saying. You don't care about them. You just want to make yourself feel good and like shit on other people. That sucks, man. Like,
virtue signaling.
It is. That is 100% virtue signaling, and I hate that. So, yeah, no, for sure. It's understanding that the unit of money is also different for everyone, right? And that value can be different for everyone. So, yeah, if you're in a position when it comes to like more of what we're talking about, say career-wise, 100%. These are things, the conversations that we're all having in our circles right now. Should I take this job, that job? Oh, the difference might be like 10%, 15%, but then I'm going to learn so much more here. This is so much more. The knowledge that I learn here is going to have a greater half-life, right? That's a bit of a Justin trademark right there. That's a nice line that you told me about. But yeah, like making sure that the career is going to give you more than just money. We're in the position, we're in the privilege definitely to think about that. And there's no need to dismiss that, because there's a lot of truth in that.
And I guess one thing, it's kind of a tangential, but I just wanted to go back to a point that you said before, in that people who have had more education are able to deal with more things in life. I'm kind of paraphrasing. So if I misinterpret the words.
But can I just say it's a super hot take as well? Like, I've done zero reading in that. Like, it's just like something I've seen, anecdotal at most, right?
And I 100% agree. And I want to bounce a thought off you that just came to me, and it's that why do we feel like someone who has gotten a bachelor's degree, say, why do we feel like they are better prepared to tackle like unexpected problems in the world than a tradie? And I think they do. This is my opinion, but I feel like it's not even so much the knowledge you gain at uni, but it's the you feel comfortable with learning more, right? And you feel comfortable with different mediums of gaining knowledge, because you have to read, you have to watch lectures, and suddenly like you've done those things before. So it's, if later in your life you want to learn about the coronavirus, right? You have that muscle of, okay, I just watch a lecture, or I read a textbook, or I read a book on it, and you have that ability to. Whereas someone who hasn't developed those skills, right? Because all of these things are still ultimately skills, right?
Yeah.
You need the skill of being able to digest a lecture, and I would say people with scientific training are like even an extension of that over someone with just a bachelor's, because you have research experience, so you have the skill of being able to digest research.
Yeah.
And they're even more prepared to deal with other situations in the world. So I think that's just a random thought I wanted to bounce off you. Do you think that is correct?
Dude, I could talk about this for days. I feel like it's something that it's a bit of a rabbit hole, and I think the extent that I've gotten to so far is just that, hey, as STEM lords ourselves, absolute nerds, right? That have just gone through engineering, whatever like that. I think our degrees in itself have been very much designed around the scientific method, regardless of what we did. Computer science, freaking electrical engineering, physics, whatever it is, right? It's always, there's some scientific method to it.
Implicitly baked into the way like people teach you, the way you think.
Exactly. And it's like what I mentioned earlier. Hey, your teachers taught you to cross-reference things, right? Your teachers taught you how to identify reliable sources. I mean, I remember my English teacher teaching me that. Like, that's something that I learned very early on, that, hey, you need to make sure that everything that you're consuming, or you take everything with a grain of salt, right? Because sometimes certain patches of information can be driven by an agenda, and you got to be careful about that. And yeah, like there is definitely, for now, I've seen that, yeah, at the very least, people who kind of fall through these STEM majors. Sorry, I apologize for all the issues before this. We might have had to just have a quick cut for this one, right?
Yeah.
But what were we saying? What the heck was I saying? I was just just talking about STEM lords, man. Like, and how the way that we educate ourselves, or the education training that we've gone through, is just a bit more closely related to the scientific method. And so we have that baked into our minds, and like kind of the way we look at the world and the way we consume material, consume information is very much kind of, it follows that methodology, right? And I think there is a lot of utility in that. Like, hey, this person's saying this one thing. How reliable is this source? Or should I read this from the doctors? The doctors are saying this, and let me just like evaluate the sources, right? That is so important. But then, even then, like, I feel like if you didn't do a STEM major, I still feel like you do. Like, if you stay in education a little longer, you do. I don't know. Is it that you're exposed to newer ideas? Your mind is still in this growth mentality. It makes it easier to digest new ideas, and it makes it easier to kind of take on the fact that there might be ideas out there that challenge your own worldviews, and that your own worldview is not like the end all be all kind of thing. And is it that if you leave education a little too early, it's kind of like you lock yourself away early on, and then you kind of enter that stagnant mentality, and it makes it harder to then catch on to, or harder to kind of challenge your worldviews later on, because they're so rigid at this point, right? And you haven't kind of pushed yourself. Yeah, that's another thing that I'm thinking. Maybe it's like being in education, it kind of forces you to expose yourself to newer ideas, and it throws you into like a mix of like university is a mix of like people from different backgrounds and people with different ideas that you're going to share with, and you're going to bump up with sometimes, and you're going to have to, you're not in an echo chamber like I mentioned earlier. And I think that's the dangers of having an echo chamber. If you leave the education system a bit too early, you might not have enough of a background. And I think it's not that you're guaranteed, right, to suck at making these decisions. I know there are a lot of tradies out there that are highly intelligent, way more intelligent than I am, 100%. I just find it anecdotally that like you're much more susceptible to it, right? There's definitely a correlation that occurs there if you kind of look deep, I'm sure. And yeah, I find that an issue. Like, and that's the other thing. It's like, do I get mad at these people for protesting their freedom? I'm not really mad. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be empathy for these people that certain things were out of their control. The system somewhat failed them. They weren't taken care of and weren't educated well enough and given the false promise that you can just leave early and make a lot of money. And yeah, that might get you somewhere in life, but it might not give you everything to or might not give you all the tools to handle everything life throws at you, right? But that's kind of just my messy take on it, just because it's still kind of like a growing idea. It's still something I've been like thinking about.
Still bouncing around in your head. That's
Yeah.
fair. And immensely complicated topic that deserves an episode. Let's
Yeah.
rapid fire through these last two ones. This started off quite light-hearted. We've gotten very deep. All
Yeah.
right, next one. Next Russell tip I'm going to hit you with, Cal,
All right.
is if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Give me a short, like, hot take on, on what this is. Sorry. Any
Far
take.
out.
It doesn't have to be a hot take.
This one might be a cold take because
Yeah.
we've already mentioned this. I think in the last one actually, it's like if you've got good people, yeah, it will definitely make it a lot easier. Your life is going to be a lot easier. I don't think there's ever going to be a point where, oh, actually, maybe not. Oh, far out. Oh, I thought I had an idea on this, but like I was looking at some Twitch streamers.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of talking about how like the work that he does doesn't feel like work, and there's definitely an element of I don't feel like I'm working.
Yeah.
Whether it's something you found yourself in a passion, I'm not sure. Okay, I'm not sure. I'll definitely need to do a bit more research here because I think the reasoning that he gave was a little radical. He was talking about how the work that he's doing is not very disconnected from the fruits of his own labor.
Mm.
This is very getting a little wild, but like he was talking about how like generally speaking, if you go into like wage work, the work that you do is somewhat disconnected from the fruits of your labor. You put in a lot of work and you might not get out the same value that you put in to the company or whatever it is, right?
Right.
And when
Yeah.
you're getting mistreated and the more disconnected you are from that labor, the heavier that kind of labor will be on your mind, right? But then he was talking about how, say, he's been lucky enough to find Twitch streaming where he streams like 12 hours a day or something ridiculous. And in that kind of business that he's built himself, somewhat entrepreneurial, he definitely gets the fruits of his labors, or he reaps the fruits very. There's like a direct connection. I do this, I love it, and I actually see the benefit of it, right? And because of that, it's not taxing on his mindset. And yeah, it does not feel like he's not working a day in his life. But I think realistically, for most people, if we're going into 9 to 5s and we're looking for just a normal job out there, like myself, Justin, right? We're just looking for jobs and in our engineering degrees or anything like that. I can't say that I'll have an amazing time where I'm like lost in work and it's like a utopia where I don't even feel like working. I definitely think there's degrees to it, and that sometimes for me the bottom line is what I'm doing, is it actually like getting my brain to work? Like, is it getting me involved, right? Because this kind of comes back to the conversation of, we always have these conversations of you hear it in Australia being so prominent, the lollipop ladies, how they make like $1 bajillion here. And everyone's always like, oh, would you be a lollipop lady? I don't think I could do it. Like literally standing there with a pole for a whole day, I might go crazy.
Yeah.
I think for me, the bottom line is the work that I do has to be somewhat rewarding, where I'm like, yeah, I'm using my intelligence, I'm using my brain for this, for that, right? I'm engaging my brain, I'm learning, I feel like I'm growing. That's the kind of career that I'm happy with. Does it feel like I'm not working? No, it does feel like work. You know what I mean? Like, it's still rough some days and lighter some other days, but it still feels like work. But I think that's the bare minimum for me.
And I think I would agree. I like the way you phrase it in terms of there's like kind of shades of this, right? And I think the way this is worded is the extreme end of of that scale that may not actually be possible. I haven't worked long enough and tried enough careers, I guess, to know if it's possible, but I would guess it's not possible to get to the point where you go to work and every single day and it doesn't feel like work. I feel like that's probably a false like ideal to strive for. You're never going to get that. It's like, it's similar to like striving for happiness, right? It's the same thing. It's saying I want to become happy, meaning I'm happy every single moment of every day. And it is not possible, but it is true that in some jobs are far more
rewarding.
or far better than other jobs, even just from personal experience, right? And you can move towards that. It's not a case of all jobs are the same, and the amount of pain, I guess, you get from it is all the same as well.
Yeah.
You definitely can find better jobs, and it's probably a lot of it is probably personal, but there's probably also a lot of characteristics that people just generally enjoy. So number one, good people that you're working with. If you're working with like dickheads, then you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
For me personally, autonomy is a really important one, and I'd probably wager that that's a big one for everyone. So autonomy being you're not being micromanaged. You have the flexibility to do things the way you want to, as long as you get the right result. Another one is probably in terms of ethics. Like a job's probably more rewarding if you feel like at the end of the day you've bettered the world, or at least not made it worse, right?
Facts.
If you're, I don't know, I can't imagine it super rewarding working in a casino where you're like seeing people gamble away their life savings, right? Even if you're making bank, even if the people you're working with are like super cool. I feel like that's an important one for most people.
That has to nag at like something deep down, definitely.
Yeah. But I generally like the direction this the core idea this quote is saying. So if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of touching on, or the way I interpret it is, there are jobs out there where you can feel rewarded most of the time, where you actually look forward to going into work a lot of days, maybe not every day. What do you think, Cal?
Same. Yeah. It's like, for the most part, are you looking forward to a majority of the days? I think that's a bloody
That's
good
a win. That's a big win.
That's a big win for us. Like if I'm 4 out of 5 days, I'm looking forward to it, which on the record, if my manager is watching this, I have been looking forward to it. No, I genuinely have, and the people have definitely made it, but also the work has definitely made it. Like I mentioned, if I was doing a dead brain job kind of thing, a brain dead job, I might go crazy. I don't think I could do it, and that's why I tend to enjoy teaching still, because teaching was a side gig that allowed me to, like, it wasn't just clock in, clock out. And I have never had a clock in, clock out job, so I don't really know. I'm not really speaking from experience, but I really enjoy a job where it challenges me. After I'm like, I feel rewarded. Teaching has always been like, I'm giving back a little bit. Yeah, I know I get paid for it, but like, I'm still helping like the next generation, or these guys go through really formative years, right? That I found to be quite difficult, and that can really pay dividends for them down the line. It's definitely quite important for them. And then like I don't know, something that I remember mentioning to you, because like when I was looking for jobs, is like, I was like, oh, Justin, what about this company, like investment banking? Or it was a trading company, and you're like, don't do it. It's like, I'm like, you know what? That's true. That's true. There's no real social impact from freaking a trading company. And I was like, yeah, I would have never gone in anyways, because their bar is unbelievably high just to get in.
This
Like,
is true.
it's acting like I didn't want it. No, I didn't even want it. I didn't want it. Don't worry about it. Citadel security or whatever it is. But generally speaking, I think there's definitely a lot of truth in that. I mean, I chose way back engineering. Back in year 11, I chose engineering because there was this idea that was sold to me that as an engineer, you do put something back into society. You do, there's some value there. And I'm still chasing that. And I still want to make sure that as I grow, that becomes more and more of a part of what I do in my day-to-day job. But yes, I think that's everything you've mentioned. I'm a big advocate for.
Okay, and again, I feel like this one, it's a lot of times with these things, it's the way you interpret it as well, because a lot of any sentence you can interpret it like any number of ways, right? Another interpretation of this that I strongly disagree with is, if you follow your passion, then you will inherently enjoy your work a lot. And I would say I strongly disagree with that, because like we were saying, it's a range of things that make you feel like, oh, I want to go into work, I'm enjoying things, right? It's not just what you're doing. That's important. Like, if I wasn't interested in what I'm doing, I wouldn't I probably wouldn't enjoy going to work most days. But it's a combination of things that you need to consider. And if you do find a job that like ticks all of those boxes, for me, again, it's interesting work, good people, like probably ethical. I'm probably getting rewarded, like you were saying with the streamer. I feel like I'm getting rewarded for my efforts.
Exactly.
Feeling like I'm growing is probably another one. But these are probably personal, and the order is personal as well. But I feel like it's incorrect to think that if I just quit my job to become a streamer, I'm going to be happy all the time, even if every other factor, without considering any other factor, that's not necessarily true. It's not just about the type of work you do.
Yeah. Oh man, I remember stumbling across someone was saying something about how, exactly what you were saying, people sell you this dream of following your passion, monetize your passion, and then you never work a day in your life. And it's like, and then some people have actually gone through and they're like, yeah, I monetized my passion. Now I absolutely hate my passion. That is no longer my passion. You know what I mean? You've turned it into like a chore, and it no longer holds that kind of that meaning to you anymore, because you're just pumping out money. And I think this happens with a lot of like content creators maybe as well. Say even YouTubers or something like that. Imagine you make YouTube videos out of the sheer like creativity of it, and then it becomes a chore because you got to pump out week out after week. You got to put out content because you got to pay the bills or something like that. You've kind of like staked your passion onto your livelihood, and then now you kind of like attach that negativity to it, and you kind of put these unnecessary stresses on something that you used to love, right? And so it can be quite dangerous in that sense. I think, like it's a bit. It was a bit of a weird obsession to make your passion your like the thing that you go for, right? Which made sense, but I think you got to take a step back, think about it for a second. It might not be the healthiest thing. It might not be the best thing forward. Like maybe keep your passions and your hobbies as your passions and your hobbies, and find a job that supports you in what you need and gives you the time and space to indulge in those things, right? That's kind of how I've imagined. I'm like, I'm really appreciative of the role that I'm in, because it's like A, compensates me. B, I'm learning a lot. I'm like growing. I'm in that growth mentality. It makes me feel alive. That is something that makes me feel alive. I'm not destroying humanity. I'm somewhat. I feel like I'm being productive as a social member of society. And like those are the priorities, and I think that's what's important to me.
Awesome. Well, I feel like that passion talk is like a whole nother episode, so I'm gonna write that down because I need ideas, bro. Every week I just sit there like, what are we going to talk about this week? Oh no!
Actually,
but this was a good episode. Let's finish off with our song recommendations, Cal.
Yeah. I've been just listening back and forth between my K-pop, but Stereotype by Stayc, unbelievably, I'm not even kidding, just it's absolute banger, man.
Good. Okay, I'll check it out. I did like
it's just like you like their last one, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty good. Oh, bro, they're like a rookie group, and they come from a company. Sorry, I digress, but like they come from a company. Let me hit you with this, okay? The people who own this company wrote songs for other companies, for like JYP, for YG, and for like the big groups, for Blackpink and Twice and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And I looked at their history. They've written like all of my favorite songs. They've written like TT. They've written literally all the biggest bangers.
Yeah.
And so now they've just created their own girl group, and they're just writing for this one group now. So like every song these girls have been putting out is like S tier for me, man.
Yeah.
But this is the most recent one, and it's unbelievably addictive. I cannot stop listening to it. Stereotype, yeah.
Excellent.
And the video is super cute too.
Yeah.
But as usual.
All right, definitely check it out. My one for this week is Driver's License from Olivia Rodrigo. I've been living under a rock, Cal. I swear this came out like beginning of the year. I've only just heard it this week. And so good. She's such a good vocalist. Holy.
She is so good. Her album's really good as well. Kelly listens to her, like Kelly absolutely loves her. So I listen by proximity, and I've kind of fallen in love by proximity as well. I'm like, these are some bangers, bro. Like awesome songs.
Definitely. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you everyone for listening. Bye-bye.
See yous.